the young people down in Shawana. I want to talk about some specific aspects of our relationship with Jesus Christ. I think it's important for us to make the determination early on in life, and that's what I'm trying to encourage young people to do. But even as adults, where are we in our relationship with Christ? Are we a fan of Jesus, or are we a follower? Now, I brought some things with me because I used this the other night. It made me think, am I a fan or a follower? Now, I follow football. Now, when I say football, real football, where they wear helmets and shoulder pads, not just kicking around balls.
NFL.
Okay? American football as opposed to European football. My favorite team is the Philadelphia Eagles, which is, it's like WC Fields. I get no respect. I know. Anyway, I'm loyal. But I'm a fan, okay? I have a hat, okay? Not only do I have one hat, I got two hats, okay? I'm trying to make a point. I enjoy all Philadelphia sports teams. I'm also a Philadelphia Phillies baseball fan. I have one hat. I have two hats, okay? Starting to see a problem?
You got three hats.
I got three hats. Not only do I have hats, but I proudly wear, in spite of the fact they're terrible, my Philadelphia Phillies baseball shirt. Okay? You see, the problem's getting worse. There's more. Oh, there's more. This one, because I'm too fat from eating Trini food, I don't wear anymore. But there's another one. Philadelphia Phillies shirt. Again, you're starting to see there's serious issues here. I need counseling of some sort. One more. Not only do I like the Phillies, but I like the Eagles. So I combined them on one shirt. Okay? Philadelphia Eagles, city of brotherly love. Dennis Sabani, can anybody else that's been there can tell you that is, that isn't the truth.
Yep. Not the truth.
And since we live only about, an hour and 15 minutes from Baltimore, I follow the Baltimore Orioles too. Okay? Yeah. Look at them smiling there. They're better than them, but the Phillies are my favorite. But you can see I'm a fan. And one last one to emphasize my point. This one I wear to paint in now. This C stands for the University of Connecticut. And we have a friend whose son played football for the University of Connecticut. So we would go and see them play football. So of course I was a fan for the 4 years he was there. So I got a shirt indicating that I was a fan. And when people saw me walking around in that, they'd say, "Oh, you must like Colgate," or "You must like Crest," or whatever. And they didn't know what it stood for Connecticut. But anyway, my point is, many of us are fans of teams, of people, of politics, of many different things in life. And we become true fans of that. And we want to define the difference between those two things. And my question we're going to frame all of this in is, are you a follower of Jesus? Now, I'm sure a lot of you can say, yes, I'm a follower of Jesus. And let me show you how and where. But I want to encourage you to listen to this, and maybe you can take what we're going to talk about and share it with others that need to know whether or not they're true followers of Jesus. There's a definite difference between a fan and a follower. We're going to make those distinctions today. There's group number one, and we're going to relate it to Facebook. Everybody can relate to Facebook. The first group is called I Like Jesus on Facebook group. Okay? They like Jesus on Facebook. If they were to be asked, they would say they're a Christian, and they would list on their Facebook page, I go to church, I'm a religious person, I'm a Christian. Under likes, Jesus probably made the list. And you're serious enough about your faith that you actually go to church with your family or friends. Okay, so that's the I Like Jesus on Facebook group. But the question is not always asking, the question that we want to ask is not just, do you go to church? Are your parents or grandparents or family Christians? Did you go forward when an invitation was given at church? Is your ringtone on your phone a worship song? I know some of you do have that. And you just kind of go, oh yeah, let me get that. That's my Christian phone I'm answering. Okay? Some people do that. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Or did you grow up going to VBS? Okay, those are all things that people often look at as qualifiers. But that gets you to page 1, the I Like Jesus on Facebook group. Often the point is we're quick to say, yes, I'm a follower of Christ, but we really don't understand what we're saying a lot of times. We really don't. And I catch myself thinking that too. There'll come a day when many that consider themselves followers of Christ will be extremely disappointed. Look at Matthew chapter 7. Familiar verses. We're going to look at it in a couple of different contexts here. But in Matthew chapter 7, that's first book New Testament, right? Matthew 7, look at verses 21 through 23. And we're just going to touch on it and we're going to come back to it. Matthew 7, 21 to 23 says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.'" Okay? It's hard. It's tough. And it's going to happen. Those are the words of Christ in Matthew chapter 7. I want you to think about that as we move on to our next group. Group number 2 is, why does Facebook even ask about religion? Okay? Why is that even on there? Okay? Maybe the question is, are you a follower of Jesus? Just doesn't seem relevant. Just doesn't seem to be a question that you don't need to answer. You don't understand it. It doesn't bother you that some people choose Jesus. It's just not your thing, okay? I have friends, when I grew up, the original Star Trek. I've got no problems with Star Trek, but I never got it. I was never a Trekkie person. Some people are. I like that. There's one in the back. But I never got it. Everybody would make quotes at school, and they talk about Spock and Scotty and Captain Kirk and everybody. And I understood it, but I just never was that interested in it. And because of that, I just never got it. But I didn't have a problem with it. But a lot of times that happens to us. People will say, well, I just don't get your Christianity, but that's okay. You do your thing. Take a minute to think. What if all of life came down to one question? What if there really is a heaven and hell where I spend eternity, and it comes down to that one question? Where will I spend eternity? Heaven or hell? That's going to affect your perspective. That's going to affect whether you're a fan of Jesus or a follower of Jesus. We're not trying to sell Jesus or talk you into following Jesus. We want to present the facts and find out whether you're a fan or a follower. I'm a fan of the Baltimore Orioles. I know the names of some of their players. Manny Machado is their third baseman. Manny's a really good third baseman. He's in his mid to late 20s. He's got a lot of career in front of him to be a really good baseball player. But that's all I know about Manny Machado. I don't know how he lives. I don't know if he's a believer. I don't know how much money he makes. I'm sure it's a lot because he's a professional athlete. I don't know if he's married. I don't know if he's got good habits or bad habits in life. I don't know those things. Now there are fans that do, and they're kind of creepy. Okay? People that know that, it turns into a little more than fan. The word stalking comes into play. But that's all I know about Manny Machado. Okay? I'm a fan. I don't want it to be that way in my relationship with Jesus Christ. So often we allow the facts to cloud our relationship with Jesus Christ. Now don't take me wrong. Facts are important. The facts of the Bible are important. The truth of Scripture is what leads us to Christ and leads us to a relationship not only with Christ, but with God the Father and the Holy Spirit. Those are important things, and we need to do those. But we need to determine where we are. There's something that I think we all should do in our relationships, and it's a term that's called DTR. Women like to know these kind of things. DTR, define the relationship. Define the relationship. When you start dating, young women have expectations. Guys are just like, oh, would you like to go out? Why? Well, you're kind of pretty. And that's about as deep as we get sometimes, early on. But as the relationship progresses, the young ladies like to know where's this relationship going? Where's it going? And what's it going to be like 6 months from now, a year from now? They want to, as they say today, DTR, define their relationship. That's when most guys get up and go, all right, just wasn't working out. Okay, because they don't want that kind of a commitment. But that's what we need to do in our relationship with God. Okay, imagine this. There's a new Starbucks that opened up down by us. Some of you probably seen it or been past it down there in Chiguanas, right by Price Plaza. And imagine one day I go in there and buy an overpriced cup of coffee because it's really expensive. And I'm sitting off in the corner enjoying the nice air conditioning, just kind of staring off into space. And in comes Jesus and sits down with me and starts to talk to me. And he gets right to the point. He wants to define the relationship, okay? He wants to know how we feel about it. Is this an exclusive relationship? Do you worship me alone, or is there more involved? And that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about that relationship, and we want to define that. Is it a casual relationship? Is it just a relationship that you exercise and practice on the weekends when you go to church? Those are the kinds of questions he's asking me. He wants to define that relationship. What is your level of commitment? Okay? He wants to have us for himself. We would know exactly what he would want from us and what it means to follow him. All we have to do is look at his word and look at the examples there. Now the question is, are you a follower of Jesus? Would probably at that point be harder for us to answer. So that's what we want to talk about now. Are you a fan or are you a follower? And that's what we want to look at. Jesus, again, has a lot of fans today. They cheer when the team is winning, but they turn away when the times get hard. My teams are like that. When my Phillies won the World Series in 2008, you couldn't buy a ticket to sit in a game. And we only lived an hour and a half, straight down the turnpike from Harrisburg to Philadelphia. You couldn't buy a ticket to go to a game. You had to know somebody, or you had to talk to somebody that knew somebody that could get you in, or you had to talk to Guido under the bleachers when you got to the game to get a ticket to get into the game. Today, they're going to start the season pretty soon here in April. Today, if you went to a game, they're so bad you could walk right up to the gate and get a ticket and sit most anywhere. Because you watch, if you ever saw a game on television, there's nobody there. Because they're not that good anymore. So those fans don't want an inferior product. And the same is true in our relationship with Christ. Christ does not want an inferior relationship with us. He wants us to go beyond the fan relationship. It's so easy to cheer somebody on when you're doing good. When you got all these people around you, we're all wearing red and white, and our faces are all painted up. Trinidad just beat Panama, I think Friday night, for a World Cup qualifier, and I saw some pictures in the paper of all these people that were all painted up, okay? But they're just fans. Christ wants more of a relationship than that with us. A fan of Jesus knows all about him, but they don't know him. They want a what we would call a no strings attached relationship. They want to be able to make that relationship be whatever they want it to be. They want to be able to make the options available to themselves that best suit their relationship with Jesus. So let's look at a couple of verses here. Jump over to Luke chapter 9. Matthew, Mark, Luke. Once you're there, I want you to look at verse 23. Luke 9, look at verse 23. And you hear Christ talking again. He says in Luke 9, verse 23, "Then he said to them, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." And we're just going to leave it there with that one verse that kind of gives us a really concise idea as to what Christ expects from us. The kind of commitment Christ is looking for in a true follower. To be a fan means you cheer like crazy, but you don't make much of a commitment beyond that. To be a follower means You develop an intimate relationship with the person you follow. A marriage relationship is based on intimacy, of following one another, of loving one another. Same is even more true in our relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's important for us to understand it. But what do we do when it comes to these things? Often, here's what we do. We compare ourselves to others. Well, I'm better than that person. And well, my children behave better than their children. And we do the same with Jesus. Well, I'm better than that Christian, and I behave better than that Christian. I don't act like that. I mean, at least I can sit through a whole church service. They don't even sit through a whole church service. So we make comparisons in our relationships. We obey religious rules. We go to church all the time. We are when the doors are open, we're there. Nothing wrong with that. But we make that the basis of our spirituality, of our relationship with Jesus Christ. The fact that we're at church. Well, we might say, well, my family's religious, and that's not a bad thing. But religion and relationship are two different things. And we need to understand that a relationship is the key to a right relationship with Jesus Christ. And that takes commitment. We need to be more than a fan. We need to be a follower. I think it's important for us to understand we need to be honest and upfront with our relationship with Christ. Am I a follower or am I a fan? We want to look quickly at a guy by the name of Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a well-known, well-respected man of God. He's a member of the Sanhedrin, which was in the day of Christ a very religious, very influential religious group. The number of the Sanhedrin was so influential that many people went to them for judgments, whether it was legal or religious. Nicodemus, though, was ready to go to the next level in his relationship with Christ. As a public follower of Christ, he would risk losing a lot because he was part of the Sanhedrin. What would people think? Let's look at that. Go to John. John chapter 3. Start at the very beginning of the chapter. First 3 verses. Now there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a member of the Jewish ruling council. I'm reading from the NIV. He came to Jesus at night and said, Rabbi, we know you are a teacher who has come from God. No one could perform the miracle signs you are doing if God were not with him. In reply, Jesus declared, I tell you the truth. No one can see the kingdom of God unless he is born again. I love how Christ was right to the point with Nicodemus. He didn't say, let me tell you a parable. He didn't say, let me tell you a story. He went right to the point. No man will see the kingdom of God unless he be born again. That's neat. To me, that's an interesting thing, and it's something we can learn from. Notice some things that Nicodemus did, though. Look at verse 2. Because of who he was, he came to Jesus at night. He didn't want to risk. At this point, he didn't want to risk being found out. So he came to Christ at night to ask him these questions. No one would see him. Could avoid awkward questions from people. Hey, where are you going, Nicodemus? Don't you have a meeting tonight? You know, Sanhedrin, they're a bunch of meeting people, I would think. Every night having a meeting deciding the fate of the world. He wouldn't have to make a lot of changes to follow Jesus if he did it in secret. If he did it on his own. Sounds like a lot of fans. Okay? We're happy to follow as long as there's no significant changes we have to make. Now, this team right here, they've changed the style of their uniforms. Okay? It used to be like this. Now it's that other P I showed you. That one right there. Okay? Some fans will say, oh, now I have to buy all new shirts. I just buy whatever's on sale. It doesn't matter to me. But as long as people don't have to make big changes, they're okay with it. The minute they have to make a significant change, there's going to be problems. Now, the way Nicodemus was kind of sneaking around at night, there wasn't as much risk for him. And we need to understand that Jesus gets right to the point with him, like we said in verse 3, and says, I tell you the truth, no one, and he said, no one can see the kingdom of God unless he is born again. That was hard for Nicodemus to hear. Okay, think about it. If you back up a little bit, Nicodemus, as a religious leader, had memorized the first 5 books of the Bible at an early age. That was part of his education. Jesus made it clear that his religious and righteous acts are not God's standard for entrance into heaven. Your acts and your standards that man has set aren't the pathway to heaven. He needs to be born again. He needed not only to be born again, but he needed to follow. I think it's important for us to understand that we need to make that commitment, not just to be a fan, but to follow. Many believe in Jesus and make a decision to believe, but don't make a commitment to follow. Often there's a decision and the cost is encountered. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Jesus is looking for more than words. He wants to see how these words are lived out in our lives. Biblical belief is more than just what we would call an intellectual acceptance or acknowledgement. It is a commitment to follow. But you know what happens? And you've all seen it and been disappointed and hurt by it, and it affects us all. Often in our churches we have separated the message of believe from the message of follow. Believe and follow should be hand in hand, are one and the same in a relationship with Jesus Christ. You look around you today, you see examples of churches everywhere that will sell Jesus. They'll make it easy for you. They'll say, you just bring your problems and you tell us your problems and we'll solve everything and it'll be good. You just keep coming here every week and God will bless you for just being here, where there's no depth to it and there's no real meat to the gospel. And that's what we're talking about here. You look at sales, kiosk sales in malls. They talk about the good things. They don't tell you anything about the price. Anybody seen the guy that used to do, I think he passed away, but he used to do ShamWow commercials?
Yeah.
Okay? You have that chamois cloth and it could soak up, they'd put it in a gallon bucket, it would soak up all the water, they could wring it out and or they'd go fill it up more. And they tell you all this stuff about it, and you're going, I gotta get me one of them. I could take a bath and it would soak up all the water in the tub. I wouldn't have to clean the tub. And they would tell you about how you could wash the car and chamois off the whole car at once, and you never have to wring it out once because it would absorb so much water. And you're sitting there going, tell me how to get it, tell me how to get it. And then they go to another thing where they tell you how to clean your rug with it because, look, I just poured a gallon of grape juice on my white carpet. Who has white carpet anyway? And dumped it all, and then I'm going to use my chamois, and it cleans. It's a miracle object. It cleans anything, anytime, anywhere. And you sit there, I gotta have one. And then finally, after they pulled you in, and you've already decided, I'm getting one of those. I gotta have at least one of those, they say. And for the next 10 minutes, and down there in the corner, click, the timer starts. 9:59, 9:58, 9:57. You're sitting there going, oh, I gotta get on the phone. So you're already dialing. For the next 10 minutes, we'll give you 2 sets of chamois for one low price. Pew, you don't even care how much it costs at this point. You're running for the phone and you're dialing in. You're on hold for 20 minutes, so you missed the 10-minute deal. So now you're paying full price. But anyway, it doesn't matter because you've got the chamois. But they don't tell you anything about how much it costs. There's no knowledge as to what do you do if it doesn't work. None of that. It's all about, wow, you have to have the chamois. If you go home and look up ShamWow, you'll see the commercial. If I had been able to, I'd have brought it and showed it to you. It's silly when you start watching it. It doesn't talk about what it'll cost you. And a lot of times we do that in our churches today. We get people in, we tickle their ears, we give them what they want to hear, we make them feel good, and they go out going, oh, this is wonderful. And then as soon as they get out the door, life hits them right in the face. And they're right back where they were. That's why we need to be a true follower of Jesus Christ. Because when the rough times come, even if you're skating through them now, God will bless because we're grounded in a true relationship with Jesus Christ. And as we move on, we're going to talk about that. Many people have heard a gospel presentation that gave them everything at little or no cost. Many people went forward. Yep, I want to accept Jesus. I like this Jesus stuff. I want to accept Jesus as my personal Savior. But there wasn't a lot of cost involved. Don't understand. Salvation's a free gift. But there's more to it than that. As we grow and mature in our relationship with Jesus Christ, it requires effort, it requires work, and it requires commitment in order to do that. Look for me at John chapter 7. I want to move along in Nicodemus' relationship here and how he began to grow and change. John chapter 7, look at verses 50 to 52. John 7, 50 through 52. Nicodemus, who had gone to Jesus earlier and who was one of their own number, asked, "Does our law condemn anyone without first hearing him to find out what he is doing?" And they replied, "Are you from Galilee too? Look into it, and you will find that a prophet does not come out of Galilee." Now, here's Nicodemus. Jesus is on trial. And Nicodemus comes to his defense. Now he is publicly defending Christ. He's beginning to grow. He's beginning to see that a relationship with Jesus Christ is more than just being a fan. And in front of his entire group, his peers, he's questioning them. And what's their response? They respond to him in verse 52, "Are you from Galilee too?" You know how they say about Galileans, no good thing. "Look into it, and you will find out that a prophet does not come out of Galilee." They had it documented. Look into it. How could a prophet come out of Galilee? They're a little slow down there. There's a place where we live in, Dennis and Bonnie might understand this. There's a county called Perry County where we lived, and we used to make fun of people when they would do something silly or dumb or foolish. We'd say, "Where, are you from Perry County?" Because it was just in the bush, and you would just call it down here. It's just out in the country. Now it's a lot different now, but that used to be the understanding of the people there. But we used to say that, and that's probably what these guys are saying. "Where, are you from Galilee?" Like, oh, only people that are slow and you know, still live with their mom are from there. You know, those kind of things, just making fun of them. So that was where he moved. But he moved into a public position of defending Christ. That was a big step. That was a big step for him. And as we move forward, we're going to look more and more at that. And if you look at verse 52, again, the Sanhedrin said they were trying to embarrass him. Well, what are you talking about? Okay? At this point, it was a great gut check, as we call it, for Nicodemus. Was he a fan or was he a follower of Christ? Just because he defended Christ didn't necessarily make him a follower. Maybe he was just practicing practical, fair law. He was being fair across the board to Jesus to give him the proper defense that he needed. But if we move to the last verse I want you to look at, in John chapter 19, it speaks directly to what happened at the end of this. It was at the burial of Christ. If we look at John 19 and verse 39 specifically, it says there, well, let's start with verse 38. "Now Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly because he feared the Jews. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away." Okay, so we've got that part of the picture. Then verse 39, "He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloe, about 75 pounds worth. Taking Jesus' body, the two of them wrapped it with the spices in strips of linen. That was in accordance with Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid." All right? And then verse 42, "Because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there." Look how far Nicodemus has come from the beginning of the book of John till now. He was involved with not only the burial process, but he purchased about 75 pounds worth of, what they call it here, myrrh and aloe. That's expensive stuff. Even in those days, it was expensive. Nicodemus is demonstrating, I believe, his commitment to be more than a fan, to become a true follower of Jesus Christ. Here's a man that initially came to Jesus after dark because he didn't want to be seen. Here's a man that publicly said, doesn't he deserve a fair trial, to his own peers, which put a lot of pressure on him. Had he become more than a fan at that point? We don't know. But I believe at this point in chapter 19, Nicodemus is now a follower of Jesus Christ. Why? Because he saw the life of Christ for what it was. The truth, the reality, the way he lived it out, the way he fleshed it out on a daily basis. Even as Christ was going through this trial, I'd love to know what Nicodemus was thinking. You know, what brought you to this point in your life? You know, what did you see in the life of Christ that brought you to that point? I'm sure there's a lot of things he would say. But to me, that's an encouragement to us. We can look at this example and realize that not only had Jesus been prepped for this, but Nicodemus had brought all of that myrrh and aloe with him, and it was obviously a demonstration of his love and his affection for Christ and his decision to be a follower, not just a fan. No longer a secret admirer and a fan, he had become a true follower. And as we finish up, I just want to encourage you. Where are you in your relationship with Jesus Christ? Are you a fan? Do you, well, there's nothing wrong with being a fan, Scott. Well, I understand that, but we need to be more than a fan. Trinidad plays, what are they playing? Trinidad men on Tuesday are playing another World Cup qualifier at Hazley Crawford, and I forget who they're playing, but, if I went to that, I would be a fan. Because I can tell you about names of about 3 guys that are on the football team. Okay? So I'd be a fan. Yeah, I was looking at shirts with my brother. They were looking for souvenirs. We took them shopping. We found some of the TNT football shirts that they wear. And I thought, oh, I'm going to buy one of these. First I looked at the price and said, no, I'm not. And then I looked at the sizes and said, are these for girls? I'm never going to fit into these things. So anyway, but that was for a fan. Those things were for a fan. If you wear that shirt, you're a fan. People can tell. It talks about, how's it? TNT FC, Trinidad and Tobago Football, no, TTFA, Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. So they know you're a fan of the football team. But let's say they push beyond that. What are they going to learn? If it was me, you'd just learn, I don't know, they have really good cold drinks at the game. I'm a fan. I don't know any more than that. But Christ asks for more than that in our relationship with Him. Many people confess Jesus Christ. Many people talk about Jesus. They call themselves Christians. But when you begin to push, and you begin to dig a little deeper, and ask them about their salvation experience, suddenly they turn into a fan. Oh, Jesus was a good man. Jesus had some good thoughts. Jesus did a lot. He performed miracles. They know all about Him, but they don't have a committed relationship with Him. And that's the difference between a fan and a follower. And we may talk more about this next time we get a chance to speak, but I want you to leave with that thought in your mind. Are you a fan or a follower? I have to ask myself that all the time. It's easy to be a fan. It's easy to make it look good, to cheer the church on, to be a church goer, to say, yeah, go church, go. But what are we really doing and accomplishing when we do that? Our commitment to Jesus Christ is going to affect our relationship. It affects the way we minister, it affects the way people look at us, and it affects everything in our relationship with God. So begin to think about that as we close. Nicodemus is a good example of a life changed by the example of Jesus Christ. Begin to think about that. Think not only about how you can come into a relationship with Jesus Christ, but then to grow in that relationship. That's the key. The key is not just to gain a relationship, but to grow in that relationship. So let's close in prayer. Father, I thank you for who you are. Thank you for your example. Thank you for sending your son and for his life and for the brief 33 years you gave him here on earth. And how He's so impacted the world around Him for you. I just pray, Lord, that as we think through our relationship with You, that we'll see ourselves as not just fans. It's not a bad thing to be a fan, but in a relationship with You, we need to be a follower. And a follower picks up his cross daily and follows after You. So I just pray, Lord, we'll count the cost, pick up our cross, and follow after You every single day of our lives. Father, thank You so much for what You're going to do. We thank You for Your word and for the way it reveals truth. I just pray that we can take that truth and make it part of who and what we are. And I just thank You for it all in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, who's got a chorus we can sing while we take the offering?